moved out of home, and worked my way up through the industry. I actually never went to college, and I just realized that, especially 20 years ago, you could start an entry-level position in gaming and work your way up. And every person that I met that I respected, that was a talented producer, a director, they'd gone to college for something entirely different, but then they were self-taught for the games industry. So I started young and worked my way up.
But you've worked on some really big projects. Why don't you tell these guys a little bit about what you've done in the past, and then we'll tell them what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And what he's doing now is really, really cool, and I think like revolutionary in so many ways.
Thanks. Yeah. I've been lucky. I've had a fantastic career. I've worked both internally as a producer, managing development teams, designers, programmers, artists, etc., making stuff, as well as managing external teams. So I've worked with some great companies like Electronic Arts, Activision. I worked at Rockstar Games for 5 years producing stuff like Red Dead Revolver, Midnight Club 2, table tennis, a bunch of big hits. One of my favorite games of my career was producing a game called Transformers War for Cybertron, which was at Activision. It was a huge project. I had 500 people on my team,
Right.
Massive budget, and I got to work directly with Hasbro, reimagining how the origins of all the Transformers came about. So everything back on Cybertron, we ignored everything Michael Bay had ever done. And I got to figure out how Optimus met Bumblebee, and Starscream was recruited by Megatron. On top of that, in addition to being able to do all that crazy, awesome nerd stuff, I also was able to work with them on, they actually created original figures based on our designs from the video game. So that was like such a dream project. In addition to EA, I worked on stuff like Simpsons Tapped Out, NBA Jam, Medal of Honor.
Wow.
So I've kind of done everything from like racing to fighting to shooting to sports to I've done education titles. Kind of a little bit of everything across console, mobile, PC. Sort of, if there's a system out there, I've made a game for it.
All right. So now the new challenge. For the past 2 years, Darion's been working at a new company, and one of the challenges that Vegas has is, the average age of a slot machine user is like 60. And they want to try and engage younger people. And so Darion's company is working with a whole new approach to doing that, which I think is exciting and innovative. So,
yeah. Being a video gamer my entire life, I've never had much of an interest in casino or slots or anything like that. So companies would approach me from time to time, and I've been like, yeah, cool, good luck, not my thing. And then Gamblit approached me about 2 years ago and said, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We want to basically make arcade-style games for casinos. And I'm like, wait, I grew up in arcades, so I could bring them back to life on a casino floor? Like, heck yeah, sign me up. So I started there, and essentially what we're doing is we're taking games that are hit video games like Catapult King or Into the Dead, which had 60 million downloads, Jetpack Joyride, which had 350 million downloads, something like 1 in 8 iPhones, something like that. We're actually taking those games, adding a gambling layer on top, and then we're putting those onto casino floors in all new hardware.
So wait, so basically, if you're a lot like me and not into like all the basically he's figuring out a way where you can monetize, where you can make money playing games like Angry Birds and things like that. So you're not just playing it for fun.
Yeah.
Now you can play it for fun and win money in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. So, with the average age of a slots player being kind of up there, but the average age of a casino visitor right now throughout both tribal and places like Vegas, all the big casinos, somewhere between, 35, 36. So we're making games that are more like what people are already playing on their phones, on their consoles, at home, etc., and we're bringing that onto the floor. So the fun thing is that when people play our games, it sort of brings that excitement of a video game, but adds that gambling layer. One of the things that we're making is a big interactive touchscreen table. So it's actually, all the games on it are for 2 to 4 players. So you can walk up, we can each put money in, and then we can sort of battle each other, like almost like Dave and Buster's basically, for the money that's on the table. And it's a blast, watching people play it. They get into it and they're knocking shots around and cursing and yelling and just having a blast. So it brings some of that arcade excitement back onto the floor.
I think that's really cool. And the other thing that Darion gets to do in this new job, you're not just creating these games, you're doing all the marketing behind it. You're shooting commercials. In fact, he just cast one of my best friends as Hercules in his next commercial. But I mean, talk about some of the diversity you have in your job, because for me, everybody's like, oh God, you want to be a dentist? That's so boring. But dentistry.
But look what you've done with that.
But
My
that's
God,
the thing,
you've been
is
everywhere.
any career you have
Yeah.
can be a springboard for so many things. I mean, yes, I'm a dentist, but I use that as a springboard to be a New York Times bestseller. I use that as a springboard to doing TV shows and this and that and the other thing. So you're now diversifying in the game industry. You're not just creating games, you're doing commercials, you're doing their advertising. I mean, talk about that stuff, because that's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm super lucky. I feel very #blessed. I started out testing, started reviewing games, and then as I got into being a producer, I sort of realized early on that you want to try to get your hands in every aspect of every form of the creative process so that you have enough knowledge that you can move on and do many different things. And at the end of the day, I think that's a lot of my skill set, which is I'm a terrible artist, I'm a terrible programmer, but I know enough to sort of work with those pieces. So as I moved up and throughout my career, I've been lucky enough to work in different areas. So now I oversee marketing, I oversee PR, I oversee all the licensing and partnerships. So I go out and I speak at conferences and I talk to developers and I get game licenses and stuff like that. And as a part of that, not only do I do all of the marketing and PR for the company in terms of doing interviews with places like Washington Post and New York Times and CBS and ABC, NBC, Fox, all those, but I also get to come up with the crazy advertising campaigns. So it's sort of been a dream come true, because I'll have these crazy ideas in my head of like, okay, this is what I want to do for this game. And my boss, who's the CEO, is amazing and supports me and gives me money to go do it. And I get to go cast and script and write and put together a production team and then create these surreal kind of really wild visions that we shoot in a day or two. And then we come up with these crazy ads. So I think the best experience so far has been, I came up with the crazy concept of basically bringing a pinball machine to life in a 1960s Playboy Club for a Playboy pinball game that we made. And it was awesome. The ad turned out great, and it basically had these human pinballs going around trashing this party and winning cash.
No, it's beautiful. Actually, can they watch it? Is it posted anywhere?
It's actually not live yet because it hasn't had its world debut.
Okay.
So you had a sneak peek, but the world won't see it till next year.
Now, December 10th, you're filming the Hercules thing. With
yeah.
TJ's going to be Hercules, finally.
I'm so excited for that one. So basically the idea behind the ad is we have those multiplayer gaming tables where it's all about 2 to 4 people coming together. And one of the things that I noticed about demoing the game around shows around the world is that it brought very unique, different types of people together that wouldn't normally play. So we've had people in their 70s. We've had, I've had like female reporters come up to me before an interview and go like, I hate video games. I don't know what to do. I'm like, it's cool, it's fine. These games you can learn in like 30, 60 seconds, and they start playing them and start having a blast. They get competitive, and it's one of those things like everybody can compete in. So my idea was, let's take famous icons throughout history and let's show them battling it out on the table and having a blast. Cleopatra, Marie Antoinette, Hercules, and Santa Claus.
That's
so
hilarious.
The 4 of me battling it out on the table, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this. So when Hercules loses, he's this big, muscular, built dude, and he's going to be crying and sobbing. And Marie Antoinette, who gets the win, will be making it rain on his face and be like, yeah, what's up? Santa will lose. He'll throw a present at Hercules' face. Cleopatra will start twerking on him. So we're just having a lot of fun with it. Just being silly and ridiculous and trying to get these big, crazy, sort of iconic things that stuck in your head. Because, like, in my job, one of the most difficult things is how do you grab someone's attention on a casino floor? Right? If you're there, it's an adult playground wonderland of colors and lights and sound. Right. How do you get to stick in someone's head? So I do a lot with zombies. I do a lot with kind of iconic, fun visuals that sort of like, as you're walking along, wait, what's that? Why is Cleopatra twerking on Santa Claus right now? Right. Okay, that I want to play.
All right. So let's say I'm in high school and I love video games.
Yeah.
And I want to do this as a career.
Yeah.
What do I do? Like, what are the things I could do as a student right now to kind of prepare me to go into this industry?
I always recommend that, luckily now we have Google, which you can research anything. There's a lot of great articles out there. If you research, how do I have a career in video games? There's a lot of great resources. And the nice thing about the industry is there's a lot of people who are really willing to mentor and kind of take people on. But I recommend to people generally is, first off, start checking out different websites that are more about game production, game design, and start thinking about how a game is made as opposed to just playing it. Because the process of creating a game is so different than playing it. You learn to analyze every little aspect differently. So one of the things I recommend to people is, as an easy way to start writing some game reviews. Look at sites that do great game reviews, see how they sort of break the different components of a game down, and instead of sitting down and playing the new Call of Duty, try writing a review on it. And you'll suddenly think about things very differently. How do the weapon reloads look? What is the combat like compared to the previous version? What is it like compared to the competitive titles that are on the field? And start to write that review and do a breakdown. And then as you get a little bit more experience with it, I recommend people go to sites that they like Kotaku or IGN or sites like that, offer to do free gaming reviews and say, hey, I noticed that you don't have a lot of Android reviews on there. Can I do some for free? And give them a couple samples. And sometimes the places will go, actually, yeah, we can't pay you, but sure, we'll put your reviews up. And once your reviews are up, boom, now you're a published author. And now if you go to apply for an entry-level position in the gaming industry, like a tester, which is how I started and how a lot of people start, you suddenly have a leg up above everybody else because not only are you a published author, but you've shown that you can take that hobby that you love and understand how to analyze things as a professional and look and be able to judge and critique things. And you know what, I would like to do this, but I would make this better. And you know what, Call of Duty had a really fun single-player campaign, but I feel like with multiplayer they could have done X and Y. And so for someone like me who gets maybe 500 resumes when I post a position, you sort of have to think about how can you step above that next person who has a lot of experience in other areas but may not have done game reviews. So I always recommend people do game reviews. Look for testing positions. You can Google around and typically find if there's a company that's within a couple of miles of you or maybe 50 miles and see if you can get some type of junior tester or even production assistant type position.
That's great. That's great advice. I think in everybody's career, there's a moment when you say, this was kind of my big break. What would you say was yours?
Oof, big break. I would say probably getting my associate producer job at Rockstar. I sort of felt like I had kind of crossed over the leap. I was an assistant producer at a company called 3DO before that. And when I joined Rockstar, it was actually called Angel Studios. And about 5 months in, we were acquired by Rockstar, so it became Rockstar San Diego. And it was such a big company, and Grand Theft Auto was such a huge franchise, so much weight behind it. So at that point, I was like, okay, I think this is going to go well. And then as I worked my way up inside that organization, I was able to realize that I could, sort of write my own check for where I wanted to go next. And that's what happened. I worked my butt off. I think the secret behind any success, especially in entertainment, is working really, really, really hard. Evenings, weekends.
It's like it's not a secret, right?
It's not.
Work your butt off. I know. So, did you have any mentors? And if you did, how did you get them?
Yeah, I've been very lucky with a lot of awesome mentors in my career, and one of my best mentors, his name is Neil Haldar. I met him actually when I was 16, testing games at Dynamics, which was in Eugene, Oregon, my very first full-time job, full-time company, and he was producing a sports game there. And we got to talking. I worked with him on a project. I was just a tester at the time, but he sort of saw okay, this kid's serious. He's 16. I probably look 12. But he could see that I was really serious about the career, and we kept in touch. And then over the next 20 years, he basically not only helped me with finding jobs when I got laid off or was out of work, he gave me advice, he helped me negotiate higher salaries when I went to start new companies. And the cool thing is, as I got progressed in my career, he still helps me to this day, but I've also been able to help him. I've been able to give him different leads to jobs and stuff. And having a mentor is something that is so key because, especially in my world, in the video game world, it's a roller coaster and things are changing constantly. And you really need some good sources who have more experience than you, who are smarter than you, much like Neil, and can kind of give you advice along the way.
Yeah, and speaking about mentors, I mean, we're coming up on our 10th year at Leap, and Darion has been a mentor every year at Leap for the last 9 years. We do a mentor roundtable where we bring in 100 different professionals from all walks of life, and you literally get to sit there for a half hour and interview these mentors and ask them questions about their career. What were their biggest challenges? How'd they get into their career? What were their big breaks? And then every 30 minutes we rotate and you get to speak to another mentor. And hopefully Darion will be in town and can come again this year for our 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
That will be on July 28th.
Yeah.
And so it's always an exciting thing. So what would you say is your favorite part of your job?
Oh gosh, being creative. I mean, I think when I started out, the one of the things I liked the most is I always felt like a weird kid. I always felt kind of an outsider, which I think as you get older, you realize most people do at some point in their life. And as soon as I started working in the games industry, I realized holy mackerel, there's 200 people that are just like me. That I can go to lunch and all we talk about is video games and what we're playing and different characters and what like funky Japanese version of some game we got to see the special side character that only came out there. And I'm like, I thought I was the only one. So it's really fun to work with just like-minded geeks and be super creative and come up with awesome stuff. There's nothing that replaces that.
All right, so here's another question that's come in. What's the most important skill to have in a fast-changing field like the gaming industry?
Most important skill to have, never stop learning. 21 years into my career now, it's something that I constantly have to learn and grow and adapt, because as we've seen in the last few years, right, look how much mobile technology has changed and how now everybody has a supercomputer in their pocket. Everybody's a gamer. My mom will play Candy Crush. Like, that's everybody. As a professional, I started out my career making PC games, and then I moved on to console, then I moved on to mobile, and now I'm doing arcade games for casinos. Like, you have to constantly grow and adapt. And if you say, you know what, I just want to focus on this one thing for a year and not pay attention to what else is happening in the industry, it can be really damaging, because once you're done with that one job, that one task, that one game, the industry will have changed all around you. So always grow, always learn.
So where do you learn?
Oh, gosh. Talking to people at the office, keeping an eye on what's new. I go to news sites. I'm on newsletters. I get magazines from around the industry. And I always try to keep an eye on, okay, what's that new technology? What's PlayStation VR like? What's the next iPhone graphics chip going to be like? What's that next sort of thing that's happening in England that's really popular? Or what's coming up in Asia? You can look at different markets around the world and sort of see like, okay, hey, this is bubbling up and this will probably cross over here. But just always trying to keep your ears open and just constantly learn.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think no matter what you do, any profession that you're in, you have to continue to learn. You have to continue to stay active in it, or else things change so quickly. I can say on a day-to-day basis that what I do as a dentist, I didn't learn in dental school. There's almost nothing that I do in an 8-hour day that I've learned in dental school. It's all new technology, new materials, new everything. They didn't even have the stuff. I mean, when I was in dental school, we had silver fillings. They didn't even have white ones yet. I mean, we had the materials that we use now to make composite, like white fillings, we had to hand mix them. And then they set. Today we hit it with a light and it cures. So, I mean,
amazing.
Things change.
I feel like this is turning into almost a don't go to college ad, which is not what I intended.
No, well, you have to go to college. I mean, I wouldn't have been in dental school if I did.
Of course,
I mean, that's the thing today, too. I mean, you can learn in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So these people that say, like, I'm not going to college, yeah, but you still need to learn.
Yeah.
So if you don't go to college, you can, one of our Leaf students is doing college at home. He's a quadriplegic, and he just can't get around college. So Kyle, who actually watches this every week, hey Kyle, is actually doing college at home and getting a great education at home because he literally can't get around. So there's a lot of ways to educate, and for some people, college isn't the best way, but I mean, you obviously have done a lot, and you're not an uneducated person.
No, I mean, I look at my first probably 4 or 5 years of my career as that was my college, because the time, too, back in this was like the late 90s, there wasn't any place that taught video game design. Today, the awesome thing is that pretty much every college, from small community colleges around the country to the big colleges like USC and UCLA and Harvard, they all have video game programs. They have video game design, video game production. So you can actually go in and get your hands on. And a lot of times, the end result is you actually create something, which there's no way to learn like actually creating a game with a bunch of friends and figuring out how incredibly difficult it is. Kids always like to pitch me game ideas, and my advice is always like, they always want to start with like some big Final Fantasy RPG, Call of Duty shooter mix, and I'm like, that sounds awesome, but that would probably cost like $200 million and maybe 600 people to make. So start low, make like a puzzle game, make like a little simple driving game, make something simple, and then kind of build your way up from there.
All right. So in closing, what's the future for Darion?
What's the future? Well, we launched all of our product for Gamblit Gaming goes onto the floor of casinos around the country next year, which I'm excited about because not only do I get to help make the games that we're doing, but I also get to go to every casino and help launch the product to the actual consumer and see what people are like playing my games.
Can you bring friends?
Yeah, yes.
I'll go. I think it'd be
Come to some
awesome.
parties.
I want to go see how this works. I'm not a gambler. I never spend a penny in Vegas gambling. I go to shows.
It's a lot of
but
people.
To me, it's fascinating. and I want to go see it. So
Totally, I think you'll have a blast playing these. So that, and then yeah, making more commercials and just being a big creative dork.
awesome. All right. So Darion, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, if you're interested in finding out more about LEAP, go to our website, www.leapfoundation.com. Our 2017 program will be the 10-year anniversary, and it is going to be July 23rd to the 29th at beautiful UCLA campus. Next week, we will have a surprise mentor coming. I hope we get him or her. I won't tell you who it is till next week. And for all that, over and out.